Tonight's speech marks the completion of my first path in Pathways. My chosen path is dynamic leadership. Wait, did I choose my path or did my path choose me? I gave my first Pathways Project speech in February 2019. And I completed level 1, just 4 speeches at that time, in 3 months. Man, I was on a roll. Then, in August 2019, 6 years ago, I transferred to Kofu Toastmasters. And I have been working on this path ever since. I said to myself, before I die, I would like to complete one path in Pathways. Fellow Toastmasters, Toastmaster guests, and prospective club members. Toastmasters is not about giving speeches. It's about making friends and helping people. Ralph Smedley, the founder of Toastmasters, said, "We learn best in moments of enjoyment." Six years ago, I joined Kofu Toastmasters. Toastmaster Akiyama remembers, and Toastmaster Aihara remembers, that year we held club contests for English and Japanese. And I entered both. That's right. I had to give 2 speeches on one day in 2 different languages. And even though my native language is English, during the middle of my English speech, I forgot where I was in my speech. I had my entire speech memorized, but with one moment of letting my mind get distracted, I had to stop speaking. I was standing there in front of everybody and looking kind of like this. It's like when you're in a job interview and you get asked a question that you've never thought of before, and you're sitting there trying to think of an answer, and you know that the interviewers are looking at you, waiting for your answer, and just being aware of that makes it impossible to think of an answer. So there I was in the English contest, frozen. And this was the first English speech I had given as a member of Kofu Toastmasters. How embarrassing. Oh, and by the way, my Japanese contest speech, everything went smoothly. But that was the first and last time I ever gave a speech in Japanese. All of my speeches used to be scripted. I wrote out every line of my speech. I created a full script. I would rehearse and rehearse and practice and practice. But then one day came the moment of evolution. One day in October 2023, I was signed up to give a speech at an on-site meeting in Kofu at the Kofu Prefectural Public Library. It was my first speech in 13 months. That's over 1 year. 1 year and 1 month, to be precise. Pathways Level 4. The project name, Manage Change. My speech title, It's Time for Change. And I had a good idea for this project. My idea was to move the capital of Japan from Tokyo to Kofu. I did a little research to find some strong reasons for choosing Kofu and why a government in Tokyo during a major natural disaster would be paralyzed. I had enough points to talk about that I could convince my audience to help me move the national government headquarters to Kofu. But I didn't write any of it down. I didn't write out my speech. I didn't find time to practice. I kept thinking, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I've got some time tomorrow. And you know what? Tomorrow never comes. But you know what did come? The day of the meeting came. The day I had promised to give a speech on site in front of an audience. That day came. I don't know where tomorrow went, but the day of a Toastmasters meeting always comes. So what? I thought, I'm taking the train to Kofu. I'll have time on the train. I'll get my thoughts together and I'll prepare on the train. So I brought my blank note cards. I boarded the Kaiji Express train, and guess what? I didn't write anything down. Do you know how hard it is to concentrate on those trains? Everyone's all excited. There's excitement in the air. Meanwhile, I've got nervous tension. I have to give a speech. I can't relax. I can't concentrate. I didn't make any notes on my note cards. All of my talking points were in my head, unrehearsed. So I arrived to the meeting. I helped set up the meeting room. I found a good seat for me as a speaker who would be getting up and going to the front of the room when I'm introduced. And naturally, I'm the third speaker, the last prepared speaker for the meeting. But I wasn't prepared. I said hello to other members. I thanked people for coming to the meeting. And soon the meeting started. I listened to the first two prepared speakers, knowing that my time would come. My time to finally turn my ideas into a speech. And then inevitably, it happened. The Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Nakamura, introduced me as the next speaker, kind of like he did today. Please begin your speech. So I took my blank note cards up to the front of the room because I didn't want the audience to know that I wasn't prepared. I wanted to look like a professional speaker holding note cards. You know, we had a packed room that day. There were a lot of guests. There must have been 20 people there. I don't know how many exactly, but every chair in that little room was taken. And there I was, holding blank note cards. Of course, nobody knew my note cards were blank. So I started speaking, just like I imagined I would. My pace was not too fast. I took the time to look around the room, just a little time between each sentence, to look at members of the audience directly in the eyes. Very relaxed so that the words would come to me. I talked about each point I wanted to make. And when I couldn't think of more to say about that point, I moved on to the next point. And you know, I could see the delight in everyone's eyes. Everyone who liked my idea of moving the capital of Japan to Kofu. That was the joy, not giving the speech. The joy for me was entertaining the audience with my ideas. The joy of connecting with fellow human beings. The joy of seeing the red signal and being able to finally wrap up my speech, for which I didn't have to rush. I didn't have to memorize. I didn't have to rehearse and practice over and over again. That was my best speech. It was the speech that took the least effort and returned the most joy. Remember, tomorrow never comes. Seize the opportunity to enjoy your time in Toastmasters today.